Alright guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. Got the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Just going to be going over some questions that you guys have for this PGA DFS event. So let me know when they come up. Otherwise, we're just kind of going to recap on last week's or the earlier video from earlier this week. Then we're going to touch on a couple of plays that are catching my eye a little bit later on in the week and kind of our plan of attack for this PGA DFS week. All right, so on the top end, I already touched on it in the last video. So I do really like Rickie Fowler, Gary Woodland, Hideki Matsuyama, and Dustin Johnson. I found myself going with Gary Woodland a little bit more, especially on sites like FanDuel, where it's a lot easier to fit him in there. So that's kind of a site that I'm going with there. Hideki Matsuyama not going to be a bad option there as well. I think Rickie Fowler, I already mentioned it, but I don't think he's going to be a bad option for us as well. Just at that price point, I think we can pay down a little bit and just go with Hideki and Gary Woodland. I was a little bit surprised at how many people are jumping on Hideki, and I think it's because he's the cheapest option on that high end side, and so people are just defaulting to Hideki. So if you go off of Hideki to someone like Rickie or Woodland, I think it's going to be lower ownership, so you might be able to gain an edge that way. That's kind of up to you guys what you want to do there. But I don't think I'm going to be having much of Dustin Johnson on either site just because of how much he's priced up. I have a little bit of him on Yahoo, but not too much as well. I'm playing on all three sites this week because I do like the pricing across the board, and I have cashed the last 2 weeks in all three of the DFS platforms, Yahoo, FanDuel, and DraftKings. So I'm going to try to keep that streak going. The players I'm not going to really be playing on DraftKings or FanDuel are going to be Snedeker, maybe Reavie a little bit on FanDuel. I have him in a couple of my builds just because he's a little bit priced down there in comparison to DraftKings, so I kind of got into Reavie a little bit there. Ryan Moore, maybe more of a Yahoo option, but not on DraftKings. I think he's priced up too much. I don't like Reed or Kisner at these price points. Billy Horschel is an option that I do like. I already touched on him a little bit. He is going to be, I think, GPP-wise and cash-wise, he's a fine option. He's kind of like Hideki, where he's priced down the lowest of those guys in that tier section of quality player. So, I mean, Snedeker and Billy Horschel, Reavie, Ryan Moore, Reed, they're all pretty much the same player as Billy Horschel, except for we're getting Billy Horschel a little bit cheaper, and he has better Don Ross course experience. Let me drop it into the lower section here, the 9K and below section. All right, so the 9K and below section, it's really mixed in there with good options and GPP options, but there's no like really standout options besides Kevin Streelman, Rory Sabatini. I think those are going to be strong options across the board, across the industry. I do like those plays. Vaughn Taylor and Peter Molinari going to be good plays for you as well. But on the higher end side of the 8K range, Neiman, he makes for a good play GPP-wise. His game's coming on strong. The only thing with Neiman is he's getting a lot of hype this week. I don't know if you guys saw it, but the video about him and his upbringing and stuff like that, he's getting a lot more hype this week. They're providing content on him. Maybe that gets into him a little bit more mentally this week. I don't know. It's just kind of a side note thing. I do want to touch on one player here while I'm in this range. Let me pull him up. All right, so Sungjae Im is actually catching my eye quite a bit more than he was earlier on the week. So he's made 3 straight cuts in a row, and he's been getting better each week. So that, we do like that. T21st, a 7, and then a T57, and then a missed cut. So the thing with Sungjae Im, we kind of touched on it a couple weeks back. He had kind of just been worn out from how many events he was playing. He was playing a lot in a row. Players need that kind of mental break to go out and be able to play well each and every week. And so I think he does have that mental break. Typically, I don't like to play guys, on their 4th event in a row. It just kind of seems like they could get tired physically or mentally. But Sungjae Im, such a great stat fit. Let me pull up his stats here real quick. So par 5 scoring, T14, total driving and ball striking. He's top 40 in that. Also top 40 in strokes gained total, scrambling, strokes gained around the green. He's 60th in putting and driving accuracy, and he's 24th in birdie or better percentage. So I think at this price point, Sungjae Im's having a great season. I think he's going to continue that at this course, where this is a course that people might be able to go out and get and be high scoring. So that's why I'm looking at par 5 and birdie or better percentage. But I do like the fact that he is able to play smart and play well. He does have decent driving accuracy. I can be looking at some of the questions here in a second. Let me pull up the one slide real quick. I think going balanced this week would be contrarian way to go. I think that it is going to be a week where there's going to be people that build a bunch of balanced lineups, and there's going to be people that build a bunch of studs and duds lineups. So I've kind of found myself in the middle pretty much. I know I have a lot of, Harris English, Vaughn Taylor, Peter Molinari, Troy Merritt, Sam Ryder, and then mixed in there with some of the high-end guys, maybe one or two of them. And then I also have pretty, balanced lineups from the 8K range and 7K range. One of my problems this week has actually been paying up for players. So I keep finding myself in a weird price range where I'm at like the Snedeker, Reeve, Moore, Reed range where I can't get up to Hideki, but I don't want to go down to Horschel. So I've had to change my builds a little bit there. But I think you should get at least Woodland, Fowler, or Hideki into most of your builds, and then maybe Horschel or someone around that high 8K range or 9K range, and then go from there, fill it in with some of those, below 8K options that are really strong. But Streelman and also Sabatini, I think those are going to be strong options. Same thing goes for Rory Sabatini, or not Rory Sabatini, what's his name? Jason Kokrak. So Jason Kokrak, if he had not played last week's event, aka we didn't see him struggle with the putter, he'd probably be a 9K option this week at least. And, a lot of people would be talking him up, and they'd probably be playing him a lot more. Now, putting can be pretty volatile, so hopefully he gets that back. I would have been practicing that quite a bit if I was that bad at putting that week, but sometimes you just don't have it. These greens are a little bit faster, I think, than last week, so maybe that could be a bad thing. If he has 2 bad weeks in a row of putting, then we would look for him again in the next event that he's in. Then Victor Hovland, I do think he's not a bad play. He's good at. I think he'll make the cut. Is pretty much. I don't know how much upside he has, but I do think he'll make the cut just because he's just knocking the ball down the fairway, and that's something that we'll be in need of in this event this week. And then the last play in this 8K range I want to touch on, Aaron Wise. So I added him into like one or two of my builds, pretty much just because I wanted to go up from Vaughn Taylor. I had like 500 left over, so I'm like, okay, let's get a little bit off of Vaughn Taylor. Let's see who we can get up to. And I decided Aaron Wise. So you look at what he's done on the Don Ross courses, T16 and a T15, that's nice. If it turns into a scoring fest, he can do that. He's T44 in par 5 scoring. He's T37 in birdie or better percentage. And he's also top 20 in total driving, ball striking, and strokes gained total. So, and we did see him come around at the U.S. Open a couple of events ago. So hopefully he's going to work out for me in those GPP lineups. But definitely lower owned GPP lineup, but I won't mind it. Got another question in. Any $20 guys you like on Yahoo besides? Yeah, so I think Cameron Tringali was a $20 option on there. There were some other guys that were like $25 that I liked on Yahoo as well. I'll touch on Yahoo in about 5 minutes here. Touch on those plays in a little bit here. So I saw that the greens are like 20% bent grass and the rest is POA. That's what the course guy said on an interview like 2 weeks ago. So I'm just going off of that. The green man, or I don't know who, some member at the course said that it was 20% bent and then the rest were POA. It's mixed, so we'll go with that. So I am going with POA, but I'm more putting an emphasis on faster greens, which is why I had that pulled up here on the right, on the right hand side. So yeah, maybe when we're looking at greens or people that perform well on a certain green, that should be the very last thing you're looking at. Maybe if you're 50-50 on closing out your lineup, I already have your 5 players filled in, and you need that last 6 player, and you're kind of trying to decide between 2 players and you can't figure it out. That's when I would use, something like who's better on this certain type of grass. But that's really about the only time. But yeah, going a little bit lower, Brian Harmon. I'll touch on him a little bit. But yeah, other than that, the 7K range is decent. I do think that Charles Howell, like Aaron Wise, 10% GPP option. Vaughn Taylor, Peter Maldonado, I already touched on those two. I do like them. Troy Merritt, I think he makes for a great GPP play. Not a cash play. You can't go with him in cash. And then after that, Michael Thompson. So I do want to touch on him. So this is a play that's catching my eye, especially because he's popping up on that fast greens there too. But you look at what he's done on the Don Ross course. He played a Don Ross course once recently, T11. His strokes or his par 5 scoring isn't best, T96. His ball striking and total driving isn't that good. He's around 95 or 95th for an average there. But it's the secondary stats that we do like. Let me pull those up. So in scrambling, he's top 20 in scrambling. Strokes gained around the green, he's 74th. Strokes gained putting, 24th. Driving accuracy, 14th. And birdie or better percentage, he is T61. So at that price point, I don't mind it. If you see on Yahoo, they actually have Michael Thompson priced up quite a bit. And I think that's why, because it's a good stat fit. He has performed well on some of the Don Ross courses before. I don't have that much ownership of him right now, just because I don't like that price point either. I thought he was going to be a value option at first. Okay, so yeah, let's get into the value ranges here. So it's below 7K. Hank Lebioda, I think GPP-wise, yeah, he's my favorite. And even cash-wise, he's my favorite below 7K. But I also do like Harris English. He has pretty much the same play, except Lebioda slightly better recent form-wise and stat fit-wise. It kind of depends how you want to break that down. I know Lebioda missed a cut, I think it was 3 events ago, and Harris English has been making cuts, but overall as a whole, they're pretty much the same play. I think that Lebioda is slightly a better stat fit, so maybe you want to go with him. But English is a better putter, and he also does have Don Ross course experience. He had a T11 at one of the courses here, or at one of the Don Ross's courses recently, so don't mind him. A little bit lower, Seb Straka, maybe. Ryan Armour, maybe. Let me go lower. Brian Gay, I mentioned him in passing in the other video. He's pretty good at Donald Ross courses. He's a good putter. He's an accurate driver. I'm not going to play this, but I think I have him in one FanDuel lineup that I did. Tyler Duncan. I'm just hoping that he makes the cut. Okay, recent form. I don't really trust that play, but maybe if you have to go down that low. Denny McCarthy, I do like him as a stat fit. So T23 in par 5 scoring, 66 in birdie or better percentage. He's a really good putter. He is a decent player around the greens as well. If he plays well, if he top 10s, I wouldn't be surprised if he did that. Sam Ryder, I do like him. He is one of the better stat fits. I already touched him in the last video. He's one of my favorite GPP value options. Not sure we can play him in cash, but he does make for a pretty decent play. And then someone touched on Scott Brown last week. I think there's a question about Scott Brown. And Scott Brown's just kind of one of those players where he does pop every now and then, but it only seems to be for a round or two. That kind of happened last week. I could see him popping for, a round or two at this course as well. But, that's kind of more of a wait and see. There are a bunch of okay value options. I know, who's it, Taylor Gooch. He just entered the field, I think, yesterday because Julian withdrew. So maybe I don't mind him as a stat option, but he's priced up at 6.8K, I believe, on DraftKings. I'd have to double check that. I just didn't like him at that price point as much as some of the other players in that price range. But for value options, I think that's all that I would really think about playing. Got another question here. Charlie Hoffman. So the thing about Charlie Hoffman isn't it? Let me find his price point here. So 78. So I would rather play Charles Howell at that price point. Just he's a better stat fit, and he does have Donald Ross course experience. And both of their games have kind of been hit or miss this year. We know long-term, Charles Howell's more of a cut maker, and he could easily pop at a course like this. I think I'd rather go with Charles Howell, but, if you wanted to play Charlie Hoffman, I wouldn't blame you. but I can't do it. I think I'd rather pay up for Brian Harmon if I could, or just pay down for Vaughn Taylor at that same price point on DraftKings. All right, got any questions? If not, we're going to get into FanDuel picks right now. All right, so on the FanDuel side, it's pretty much more of the same. I do think Peter Molinari's a little bit too cheap. I do think Lebiota is definitely a little bit too cheap. Those are kind of the cheaper options that you can get away with if you want to get more studs into your builds. So I do like Jason Kokrak's price on FanDuel. It's pretty nice. And Jason Kokrak pretty much had the same problem as Charlie Hoffman. He couldn't make a putt. Hopefully he makes a putt and does play well. Zach Zucker, that's a good. I mean, I think he'll be right around the cut. It's hard to project players that have one good week. If so, one thing about Zach there is that people aren't looking at what he's done in his recent events. It's showing like 3 out of 4 made cuts in a row on DraftKings, which isn't true. He's been playing some other events on some other tours, and he actually had missed like 2 or 3 cuts in a row before he had a really good Travelers Championship week last week. So that's one thing about him. I was thinking about playing him, and then I checked, some of his other tours that he's on that he's played recently, and he didn't play well in those. So maybe he can ride the form, and that's something that players tend to do is like ride their really good form. I want to see it at least one more week before I think about playing him. Okay, so avoiding paying up. If you were to pick one, who's your favorite? Yeah, I think Billy Horschel, I do like him the most in that 9K range. And without going up to Hideki, Ryan Moore and Ches Reavie. Ryan Moore makes for a good GPP play. Ches Reavie makes for a good cash and GPP play. I don't think he's going to top 10 again, but who knows? It does set up well for him. As long as he continues to putt well, he could easily top 10. But yeah, Billy Horschel, that's going to be the play for me. I know last time that I liked him this much, he missed the cut. So take that for what it's worth. That was his only missed cut on the year. So, I'm going with him. Any love for Landry? So, I thought about Landry a little bit, but now I could see why. Let me see if I can find his stats here. I know he was popping, I think, maybe birdie or better percentage or par 5 scoring. I can't seem to find him, but no, he didn't end up making my player pool. If you threw, I don't know how many GPP lineups you're making, but if you threw him into one of them, I would get it. But I can't play him this week. And then also Jason Duffner. Jason Duffner, probably not this week. I think I saw an interview on Jason Duffner this week. He did say he likes the course and he's kind of likes the atmosphere that's going on. So, take that for what it's worth. Maybe he's vibing and can play well this week, but that's pretty much it. Getting more into the FanDuel side of the build, I do like it just because on FanDuel, once again this week, we're able to pay out for another stud, where on DraftKings, we have to go like $1,000 cheaper to get the same player. I know on one of my builds, I think in comparison to FanDuel and DraftKings, on FanDuel, I think I was able to get up to Gary Woodland. No, it was Ches Reavie. I was able to get Ches Reavie on the same build, except for the last player, in replace of Victor Hovland. So on DraftKings, the same exact lineup, except for the 6th player, which was Victor Hovland, I was able to get up to Ches Reavie on FanDuel. So FanDuel is a decent platform this week for DFS price-wise, and I think I'll be playing a little bit more on FanDuel this week. 79 left. Who's your play on FanDuel? Man, I don't know. I don't have that pulled up right now. Who was it? I think. Let me see. I know I ran into this problem earlier too. I think it was. I think that's the lineup I went with Tyler Duncan on. I didn't like it, but I was kind of forced into it. But yeah, I ended up with like 78, 79K. Not K, whatever. On FanDuel. And I had to redo a lot of my builds just because I didn't want to play Tyler Duncan too much. There was one other play really low that I just took a dart throw on. I'll throw that in the comments section below after the video. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I'll have to look at that. It might have been Chip, like Daniel or whatever his last name is. I think I forget what his price point was on FanDuel, but I think I went with him in one of the builds on FanDuel as well. I don't like that, but the only reason I'm doing that is in hopes that I get 5 out of 6 across the cut line, and maybe that low option can find a way to like get a T50. All right, getting to the Yahoo plays, I do like the Yahoo board this week as well. All right, so Victor Hovland still too cheap on Yahoo. We do like that price point. And in comparison to like DraftKings and FanDuel, Joaquin Neiman's definitely too cheap. Streelman, I think he's priced correctly. Peter Molinari is actually $24 on Yahoo, and Brian Harman is $25 on Yahoo. That didn't get updated. I apologize. But those are not too bad of an options on Yahoo. I do think you can make some really easy builds on Yahoo. And if you're going to go a balanced build, I think on Yahoo that's the way you do it. You can fit in a lot of $35 plays, and it's going to be pretty safe for you. If you're throwing Hovland in there, it'll work out for you. All right, any more questions? Going to be wrapping up here shortly. Yeah, Jalen, I'll post that in the comment section after the video is uploaded, probably like 20 minutes after. I'll kind of give you those options or players I was looking at below AK. I know it sucks that Lebiota, if he was $100 cheaper, be having some really nice lineups on FanDuel that we don't. And that kind of happened on DraftKings too this week. All right, but Patreon build, you guys know how it goes. Give you guys the cash lineup, give you guys some GPP lineups. Gave a lot more on Yahoo and FanDuel this week.